On May 19, 2012, 42 years old CEO of the Yoki Food Company, Marcos Caetano Matsunaga, was killed by his 30-year-old wife, Elise Caetano Matsunaga, in their apartment in São Paulo, Brazil, after an argument over his infidelity. Security footage shows the couple arrived in the building on Saturday around 6:30 p.m., accompanied by the nanny and the couple's daughter in Elise's arms. According to police, the nanny is dismissed shortly after. An hour later, around 7:30 p.m., the Yoki CEO goes down the elevator alone to get a pizza downstairs. He appears talking on the phone. Minutes later, he returns to the apartment with the pizza in his hands. These were the last moments of him alive. On Saturday the 20th, Elise leaves the apartment around 11:30 in the morning, dressed in a red jacket and with 3 large suitcases on which were the parts of her husband's body. Elise returns to the building in the same outfit about 12 hours later. This time, she's out of her suitcases. Police found Marco's body parts inside a plastic bag spread along a road in the city of Cotia, about 20 miles outside São Paulo. Investigation at the apartment showed that Marcos Caetano was shot dead in the head with a .380 pistol, and his body was dragged inside the apartment by 15 meters. Then Elise dismembered him with a 30-centimeter knife into the maid's room about 12 hours after the murder, which explains the lack of blood. 30 guns were seized in the apartment. According to Elise, the one used in the crime was given as a gift to her by her husband. On September 26, 2010, a 27-year-old Swedish blonde by the name of Ellen Krantz was on her way home after a night out with friends in the Valand nightclub in downtown Gothenburg in western Sweden. It was 4 a.m. already, and after her friend had gotten off at the Hjalmar Brattensplatten stop, Ellen Krantz found herself alone in the tram with a few more stops to go before reaching Hessingen area, her destination. After her friend got off, the tram number 5 in which Ellen Krantz rode was boarded by a 23-year-old black male who immigrated to Sweden as a refugee. The immigrant was later identified as Ephraim Tidell Johans. CCTV footage shows Johans came aboard and sat next to Ellen Krantz and then left with her at her stop. Shortly thereafter, Ellen was found raped and murdered in a wooded area not far from the tram stop. It is believed that Ephraim Tidell Johans abducted her, pulled her into the wooded area in Landsmangarden, and raped her. She was hit and kicked by Johans with so much force, her brain suffered from permanent damage, resulting in a lack of oxygen. Her head, neck, arms, and legs were covered with contusions and hemorrhaging, and her membranes around the vaginal opening were burst open. According to prosecutors, Johans brought Ellen Krantz down by force, spread her legs, and sexually violated her while applying force to her neck. After the rape, he dragged her body over the forest ground and threw it on a pile of rocks. Forensic examination found traces of Ellen Krantz's DNA on Johans' body. The biggest irony of it all is that Ellen Krantz was a supporter of multiculturalism in Sweden. She was supposedly a member of the Facebook group We Like Diversity, called herself multicultural, and supported immigration of people from the third world countries into Sweden. Emma Filipov, described by friends and family as a beautiful, creative, and private girl, was only 26 years old when she went missing from Victoria, British Columbia on November 28, 2012. A surveillance video from earlier that day shows Emma in a 7-Eleven convenience store pacing around and cupping her hands around the glass door as she looked outside, as though she was being followed. Despite never owning one before, she purchased a prepaid cell phone and hesitated before leaving. A little later, Emma got into a taxi, instructing the driver to go to the airport. She then got out of the taxi due to insufficient funds for the fare. She was last seen between the times of 7:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. acting strangely in front of the Empress Hotel. According to a witness, Emma seemed confused. He saw her at a zebra crossing, refusing to cross the street. He asked her if she was feeling okay and asked her if she was being followed due to her paranoid mannerisms. Emma said she was okay, so not knowing what to do, he made a phone call to the police. Police showed up and found her shoeless. They questioned her for a total of 45 minutes and then left. Investigators later found her vehicle the following morning, a red Mazda MPV 93 van parked at Chateau Victoria parking lot containing all of her belongings, including her laptop, rented books, and identification items such as her passport and library card. Investigators found a CCTV footage clip from a local YMCA 5 days before Emma went missing. In the clip, she walked in and out through the door 6 times, peering out through the glass. The cell phone she had purchased at the 7-Eleven was never activated. One possible person of interest is in CCTV footage from a Vancouver store. The 2014 surveillance video shows a man in a Gastown clothing store holding a crumpled poster in his right hand. The store owner reported that the man was irritated and claiming Emma was his girlfriend and that she wanted to be left alone. Police have not yet been able to identify him. A deli owner claims he murdered a 15-year-old schoolgirl, Paige Dougherty, stabbing her 146 times and dumping her body in Woodland because she threatened to say he touched her. Paige's body was found in Clydebank, West Devonshire on March 21, 2016, after she failed to turn up for her part-time hairdressing job 2 days earlier. At the High Court in Glasgow, 32-year-old John Leatham admitted to her murder. It was claimed in court by his defense team that Paige had threatened to say he had tried to touch her if he didn't give her a job at his deli, and that he feared being put on the sex offenders register like a relative had been. Paige's body was found with 61 individually identified stab wounds, including 43 to the head and neck. A further 85 minor wounds, such as scratches, suggest Paige tried to fight off her killer. Leatham stabbed her at least 146 times in total. The 4-foot 8-inch schoolgirl went missing after a sleepover at a friend's home in Clydebank on Friday, March 19th, and was last seen buying a sausage roll from Leatham's shop, Delicious Deli. A CCTV footage released after Leatham admitted the murder, Paige can be seen entering the deli at around 8:20 a.m. and never coming out again. The footage then shows Leatham leaving the premises as he prepares to dispose of the evidence. He was later captured on camera leaving the shop to buy antibacterial wipes, bin bags, and bleach, and collect his car from his nearby home in a bid to cover up the crime. Family and friends of Paige gasped and cried as CCTV footage was shown to the court of Leatham carrying her body in a bin liner to the boot of his car. CCTV, which was shown in court, has not been released by police. On October 12, 2016, Leatham was sentenced at the High Court in Glasgow, where the judge set a minimum time of 27 years in jail before coming eligible to apply for parole. Double-sex murderer Rurik Judding was jailed for life by a Hong Kong court on November 8, 2016, when he tortured 23-year-old Samardi Ningsha and 26-year-old Shining Mujasha, also known as Jessie Larina, both from Indonesia, then cut their throats before recording his thoughts about what he had done on his iPhone. Fueled by drugs and alcohol, Judding used a belt, knife, and pliers during his sadistic 3-day ordeal on Sumardi Ningsha before slashing her throat. Judding urinated into her mouth, she threw up, and he made her eat her own vomit, forced her to take drugs. In another shocking confession, he also revealed how he beat her private area so badly she bled from her labia. He then recorded a series of rambling clips on his iPhone after he had killed her. Footage showed her corpse face down close to the toilet bowl, which he had made her lick before cutting her throat. Days later, he struck again, preparing a new DIY torture kit including a blowtorch, sex toys, and sandpaper, and killing Jessie Larina the same way. He was caught on CCTV as he returns to his flat with his grim torture kit. Exclusive pictures taken from cameras at his luxury apartment block show him leaving just before 1 p.m. on Halloween 2014 and returning 75 minutes later. When the police arrived, a 12-inch knife, sex toys, and cocaine were found at the apartment, and Larina was found lying naked on the floor with cut wounds to her neck, throat, and buttocks. She was alive when police arrived, but was pronounced dead soon after. Rurik Judding was arrested at the scene. 8 hours after Judding's arrest, a second partially decapitated female corpse was discovered in a large black suitcase on the balcony of the apartment. The badly decomposing corpse was partially clothed, wrapped in towels, and had her hands and legs bound with ropes. It was later identified as Ningsha's. On October 22, 2013, a high school math teacher, Colleen Ritzer, 24, was murdered in a restroom at the school. A 14-year-old student who had recently transferred from Tennessee was arraigned in her death and was subsequently tried as an adult. In the last recorded footage of Colleen Ritzer, she's walking down the school corridor with a smile. Surveillance cameras show Colleen waving to someone out of sight before heading into the restroom. Moments after Colleen entered the bathroom, 14-year-old student Philip Chisholm followed her in. He brutally raped the young teacher and stabbed her to death before stuffing her body into a recycling bin and wheeling her out to a shallow grave in nearby woods. The case deeply shocked America for so many reasons, but the real tragedy for her loved ones was her killer's motive. Colleen had been murdered for trying to help a student, the very reason she had been so admired. During an algebra lesson, she noticed Philip was doodling and asked him to stay behind after school. Colleen wanted to check he was settling in well and asked him how his old town compared. A witness would later say that Philip became agitated on hearing the word Tennessee, and sensitively, Colleen changed the subject. Colleen then left to use the bathroom. She would never come out alive. It is believed that Philip attacked Colleen with a box cutter. He raped her, strangled her, and stabbed her at least 16 times. When he left the bathroom about 12 minutes later, he was holding Colleen's black trousers and had blood on his hands. After fetching a large black bin, he stuffed Colleen's body inside and wheeled it out into the hallway. No one thought twice as he rolled it outside to nearby woodland. After further sexually assaulting her body, he took her wallet and left her in a shallow grave. Within hours, police found Colleen's half-naked body. A note nearby read, "I hate you all." Her throat was so deeply cut that her vertebrae had been nicked with the blade. One of the most horrific unsolved mysteries in the history of Malaysia is the murder of an 8-year-old girl named Nurun Jazlan Jazaman. Nurun lived in the Wangsa Maju township of Kuala Lumpur. On the evening of August 20th, 2007, she had gone to a market near her home to buy a new hair clip and was never seen alive again. According to witnesses, an unidentified man forced Nurun into a white van. On the morning of September 17th, a sports bag was found in front of a shop in Petaling, Utama. It contained the nude body of a young girl with a cucumber and eggplant stuffed into her genitals. She was soon identified as Nurun Jazlan Jazaman. Nurun had died before she was found, and bruises on her neck seemed to indicate strangulation. It appeared that Nurun had been kept alive for nearly a month to be abused and tortured. The cruel, perverted manner in which the child was molested and killed traumatized the entire nation. Apparently, Nurun's abductors had violated her with such vicious force, the poor child suffered internal hemorrhage from a ruptured rectum and succumbed to bacterial infection. When investigators checked CCTV footage in the area, they saw a motorcyclist dropping off the bag containing Nurun's body in front of the shop, which was closed at the time. While doing so, the man was speaking on his cell phone, but unfortunately, the image was too blurry to make out his face or the license plate on the motorcycle. One hour later, the CCTV showed a woman loitering in the same area before she was picked up by 3 men in a van, who chatted with her for several minutes before driving away. Once again, the footage was too blurry to obtain any useful information. However, none of the featured individuals seemed to acknowledge the bag on the ground, suggesting that they may have been involved in Nurun's death. Sadly, this hideous crime remains unsolved. On October 8, 2009, Bobby Jamieson, Sherilyn Jamieson, and their 6-year-old daughter Madison mysteriously vanished. It wasn't until more than 4 years later that their skeletal remains were found on a remote Oklahoma mountainside, lying side by side, face down in the dirt, 3 miles from their abandoned truck. No one knows how the Jamieson family died. The results of the autopsy are inconclusive. It is believed the family died within hours of their disappearance. It is also believed that the Jamieson family traveled to the isolated mountains where they were looking to buy an acre plot of land near Red Oak in Oklahoma, a few miles away from where they currently lived. Days after they went missing, their truck was found abandoned. Inside their pickup truck was their phones, car keys, GPS, and $32,000 in cash. They even left behind Madison's beloved dog Maisie, who was found inside the vehicle on the edge of starvation. This is the last ever known footage of them alive, as they were seen loading up their truck by their surveillance camera. Investigators say that Bobby and Sherilyn looked like they were in a trance-like state, where they kept repeatedly going to their house and back to their truck many times without even speaking to each other. On June 30, 2014, 28-year-old German Lars Mittank and a group of mates flew from Berlin to Bulgaria for what was meant to be a month-long holiday. Their destination was Golden Sands, the Bulgarian equivalent of Ibiza, which has become increasingly popular with young European tourists looking for a cheap party town. In the first week of their stay, Tank hurt his ear after getting caught up in a beach brawl between rival football team supporters. He sought medical attention for his injury, which turned out to be more serious than he'd realized, possibly a ruptured eardrum. When it came time for the group to fly out, the doctor told him his ear injury was not sufficiently healed to fly safely and recommended he stay on a few more days. He decided to stay in Bulgaria for further treatment. He rents a hotel room in the poor part of town and convinces his friends they can leave without him. Just a day later, he shows extremely erratic and bizarre behavior, all caught on CCTV cameras, and vanishes into thin air. On his first night alone, the young traveler made a panicked call to his mother in Germany, claiming he was being followed by 4 men and that he feared for his life. That same night, he booked a flight home for the following day, with plans to check in with a doctor at Varna Airport before boarding his flight. Tank is captured entering the airport and walking through the building, luggage in tow. Shortly after arriving, he visited the airport clinic. The doctor later told police that he seemed fine for the first few minutes of the consultation, but later jumped up and ran out. He is captured on camera bolting through the airport, minus his bags, and out through the entrance into the car park area, never to be seen again. Hannah Elizabeth Graham was an 18-year-old second-year British-American student at the University of Virginia who went missing on September 13, 2014. She was last seen early in the morning that day at the downtown mall in Charlottesville, Virginia. 5 weeks later, her remains were discovered on an abandoned property in nearby Albemarle County. Graham's friends last heard from her via text message at about 1:20 a.m. that day, after she told them she was on her way to a party but was lost. She had attended another party before disappearing. According to surveillance footage and witness testimony, among the last places she was seen was at Tempo Restaurant with a 32-year-old man person of interest, Jesse Leroy Matthew Jr. A witness also said that Matthew was seen in the restaurant holding an arm around Graham and that she looked drunk. Hannah Graham's remains were found in an abandoned property in October 2014. Matthew was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences, added to the 3 life sentences he received for the 2005 rape and attempted murder of a woman in Fairfax, Virginia.